Okay, we are continuing to monitor the fallout from Graham Plattner suspending his campaign for Senate. His decision follows a wave of calls for him to drop out of the race. Literally, nobody in elected office is defending Graham Plattner right now. That is, except for the President of the United States.
Well, he steps out of the race.
So he won the primary.
And now there's these new allegations.
It's very hard for them to do. And it's really a question of whether or not you believe the woman. A lot of people say big falsehoods.
A lot of people say big falsehoods. There you go, from the mouth of Donald Trump. Now, just last month, Trump was calling Plattner a thug and the worst human being that's ever run for office. But it seems the president has never met a sexual assault allegation he didn't want to question. And those bizarre comments come on the heels of a rough 48 hours for the president of the United States, who has been facing humiliation after humiliation. I mean, today, a federal court officially ordered that $5 million of Donald Trump's money be released to E. Jean Carroll, who successfully sued Trump for defamation. In a blistering order, the judge wrote, quote, "Defendant has been stalling this case for years. A jury unanimously concluded that he sexually abused and defamed plaintiff and awarded her damages accordingly. It is time for him to do equity and pay the judgment." Also today, another federal judge rejected Trump's efforts to put his name back on the Kennedy Center, a loss that we know humiliates Trump because his administration has left a tarp over the place where his name used to be, as if that tarp means his name is actually still there, and who knows what they are telling him in there, we don't know. Now, on top of all of that, Trump faced even more humiliation today when his so-called peace negotiations with Iran fell completely apart. Who could have seen that one coming? All of us. The U.S. has launched multiple new rounds of airstrikes against Iran, including one just tonight. Trump has now declared his ceasefire over, claiming he doesn't even want to deal anymore. And as a result, oil prices are once again spiking, with gas prices expected to rise again soon. It is safe to say Trump is not having a very good week. And it is only Wednesday, everyone. Lots of time to go. But perhaps the most humiliating thing that happened to Donald Trump this week, the thing, you know, that gets under his skin more than anything else, was his doddering performance on the world stage. It started as soon as he got off the plane from the annual NATO summit in Turkey. Trump meandered, you can see him there on the screen, down the tarmac until Turkish President Erdogan took him by the arm and told him where to stand. That happened. Then Trump held a series of bilateral meetings and press conferences where he seemed even more confused. At one point, he even invented an entirely new country for America to bomb.
2 months ago, we had 100, I told the story yesterday, we had 111 missiles shot by the Islamic Republic of Japan.
I seriously hope someone is making sure the president has not accidentally declared war on Japan. Anything is possible. Trump followed that up with one of his signature rants about Barack Obama's Iran deal, known as the JCPOA, of course, but he somehow even bungled that one.
The Obama deal, that was one of the worst tragedies. JCPOA. What a terrible deal.
And speaking of getting names wrong, there was also this embarrassing slip while meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
Do you have a question for President Putin? Do you have a question for President Putin? Not Zelensky. Putin. What would you like to ask him? Because I'm going to ask him that question.
Okay. So what happened there, just in case that was like, what the heck is happening? Trump asked the reporters if they have a question for President Putin, points at President Zelensky, then realizes his mistake, and his fix is to try to cover for it by acting like he's Vladimir Putin's press secretary, like he's just fielding questions to take back to the Russian dictator. Trump had more than a few of those moments today, like this moment when he started talking about the president of Turkey like he was the CEO of a tech startup.
I want to thank President Erdogan, who's really a great man. He's a strong person, a very strong personality, and that's why he runs such a successful and good company.
Running a company, running a country, what's the difference? They're both just ways to get rich, at least for Donald Trump, it seems. The man is basically getting laughed at every day by judges, by world leaders, by European soccer players. Most are responding to him with a collective eye roll. But it doesn't mean we can entirely dismiss him. Because when this president gets embarrassed, when he feels cornered, that is when he's most likely to try and cling to power. I mean, in just the last 24 hours, we learned that the Trump administration is now threatening to withhold $1 billion in counterterrorism funds from states unless those states completely change the way they run their elections. The more desperate he gets, the more desperate those plans get, too. The Trump administration is demanding states transition to using paper ballots, verify the citizenship of every voter, and hand over their voter rolls to the Trump administration. As the New York Times puts it, the policies align closely with some of the goals pushed by right-wing activists that are rooted in false conspiracy theories about election machines and voting by non-citizens during the 2020 election. In other words, Trump wants to force states to completely upend the way they conduct elections just months before the midterms, or risk losing critical security funding. Miles Taylor, a former top security official in Donald Trump's first administration, wrote about what this new policy means for those states. And he says, quote, "I can tell you firsthand that those are the funds used to protect you against terrorist attacks, cyber attacks, mass shootings, weaponized drones, and more. I will say it again. If you live in a blue state, Donald Trump and his team are threatening to put your life in danger if your state doesn't give him control over elections." Very clear there. Trump is at his most desperate and unpredictable moment of his presidency so far. And that means he is also at his most dangerous.